The Magic Stone, a story by Kelly Scaletta. Chapter 3. The Guardian. 3 years later, Robbie sat in the front line next to his best friend Penny. Penny wasn't just his best friend, she was the best friend anyone could ever have. But in spite of the fact that Penny was his best friend, and the best friend of any friend ever, he was a little sad right now. They had just gotten back from playing kickball, and once again, he'd been the last one picked. Robbie was anything but what you might consider an athlete. He wasn't frail or fat, he had a normal build. He just had the speed and dexterity of a newborn sloth. And that made him sad because he loved to play sports, even though he wasn't very good at it. As the two of them sat there, whiling away the afternoon, which is what everyone knows that's what you do with summer afternoons after all the games have been played, he opened up to his best friend ever about it. As they talked, they watched Penny's cat, Ginger, play. Robbie was amazed at its agility, as anyone who has ever paid attention to a cat might be. Robbie was fascinated with cats, in large part because they were what he wanted to be. He spent a lot of time reading about them on the internet. Did you know they can jump up to 5 times their own height? They can run up to 30 miles an hour? If you were to convert that into grown man stats, it would be like jumping 25 to 30 feet in the air and running better than 45 miles an hour. Also, due to better muscular density, they might be as much as 5 times stronger than humans. And they had night vision. They have better hearing range than dogs, and their sense of smell is even more delicate. In fact, some people say that pound for pound, common house cats are the most dangerous predators on earth. It's why Robbie was so fascinated with him. They were all that he was not. As Robbie lost himself in his thoughts, Ginger exhibited that athleticism. He looked up to check on how things were going with Ginger and Penny when he saw Ginger had advanced to another branch and was now a bit precariously perched and had concerns about leaping down. Penny called to Ginger from the ground. "I'll catch you," she cried. But he would just meow from the branch. So Robbie sprang to his feet and strolled over to the tree. He gave Ginger a glance, assessed the tree for a moment, and leapt up, catching his foot in a nut, before springing over to the branch below Ginger. Hanging there with one hand, he swung up the other hand, snatched the cat off the branch, and did a backflip to the ground, landing as neatly and softly as a U.S. gymnast, and made it all look about as difficult as chewing gum. He handed the cat back to Penny, whose mouth was agape when understanding replaced wonderment in her eyes. Penny and Robbie grew even closer after that, spending every day together. Later that summer, they were walking across the playground when Robbie spotted a pair of kids who were a couple of years older than him picking on a kid a couple of years younger than him. He had gained a lot of confidence in his abilities since he had acquired them, and one thing he could not abide was a bully. Penny watched as he strode over to the trio. He had such a unique, coordinated walk now. It was as though he had wheels instead of feet. He strode so gracefully. And there was unquestionable power in his stride, and confidence in himself, in spite of the fact that they were a good 4 inches taller than he was. And they probably had a good 40 or 50 pounds on him, too. One of the bullies looked at Robbie and said, "Scram, kid," or whatever nonsensical thing bullies say to smaller kids. "This is none of your business." Robbie just looked at him. "Do you want some of this too?" the kid asked. Robbie just looked at him. Then the bigger kid came at him. And quicker than a blink, Robbie had that kid in an arm lock. The second kid decided to get involved when Robbie pivoted the first kid at him, maneuvering him with the arm lock and used the first kid's head to headbutt the second kid's chin. Neither bully was hurt badly, but they were both ready to admit they were outmatched. Kid number one remained in Robbie's arm lock, and the other kid rolled on the ground, clutching his head and crying. Robbie, as coolly as you could imagine, asked them, "Do you have anything else to say?" Both bullies apologized to the little kid, whose eyes bulged at his superhero, who had just solved the two biggest problems in his life in less than 2 seconds. Thank you, he muttered out to Robbie. No problem, Robbie said. I hate bullies. After letting the bigger kids know that this was now a bully free zone, he released the larger kid and watched as they ran away with impressive speed. Robbie walked back to Penny, expecting a scolding for his actions, but was surprised when instead he got a kiss on the cheek, the kind she would give to Ginger. That's a good kitty, she laughed. The stone chose well. Robbie wasn't sure how he was supposed to feel about all that, but it did make him glow inside. This is the conclusion of Chapter 3 of The Magic Stone, a novella by Kelly Scaletta. If you'd like to keep up with the story, go ahead and click like and subscribe, and make sure you bookmark the playlist.